letters, 1, 2, 3. It's as easy to learn as your ABCs. We're looking at dates that are coded to a calendar, probably not even the calendar that we're all familiar with, because we know they still track Julian. The Coptic calendar first of the year is 9/11. There's all these other things going on, but in my view, it is just a mental mind warp to convince us partially that all of us need to die around 70 or 80 years. You know, what if we were born in this world and never told we needed to die? How long would a human life go at that point? You know, the mind precedes all reality, and we've all been convinced that you get about 70 or 80 years, most of us here. I think this plays into it, because what they do is they give stardom, and they do give it. You think about the first time some big rock star is given an album. They've been handed the life of a king, so to speak. I've heard people like Dave J describe that is not theirs to keep forever. They have to give it back at some point, which also plays into the idea of the fake coded to death. But let's go with that for a second. So they recognize a person that they're going to use to message people. And here we're looking at this big rock star, man. He's only 40 years old. Look at this famous person that everyone loves. Oh my God, he just died of some common thing. You know, even the richest among us, the most famous among us, can get killed by malaria, the common cold, or cancer, or all these other nonsensical things. I think it's a mind warp, and I think it's a bit black magic-y and encoded to the sky to those ends. That's my point of view.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. And that takes us over the top of the hour, so those first 24 questions is as far as we got.
You know, Jason, should we push a little on the first hour and get a few more in and do the same on the other end? What's your take, man? How would you like to proceed? I mean, we've got over 80 questions here.
We do. We have 89, I believe. Yeah, we could do a couple more right now if you'd like.
Let's burn a few more out and make a longer first hour, and try to get through as much of this as we can. And again, just to be clear, if we can't fit it all into the first and second, what we're going to call hours, which are going to be more, we will bleed what people have submitted into future episodes. And I will also state, when I collected these questions, I did put a cutoff, and people kept submitting, and I didn't collect those. The reason's pretty clear, I think, for anyone looking now. We got so much, we knew we couldn't get through it. So unfortunately, I saw some great questions come after the cutoff. I just want people to know that. Anyhow, Jason, back to you.
So number 25 would be from Adam. What about speaking on the crypto-terrestrials? These are a group of ancient humanoids that are terrestrials and are behind UFOs and abductions. The guy that popularized the theory, Mac Tonnies, died very young after releasing his book. He has compelling arguments, and this may likely be the real breakaway civilization that is much closer to home.
So I think, Adam, you and I might have a different point of view on this. I don't accept crypto-terrestrials. I don't accept that anybody leaves this place we call our world with their bodies anyhow. I think there's a hard, fast barrier that separates our atmosphere from whatever is beyond. And again, we've kind of addressed the alien UFO ideas earlier. I just don't think there's a basis for these conversations. And I would point out that if there was something there to look at, we'd see a hell of a lot more people covering it and bringing things that mattered to the conversation. What we actually see is an endless mystery. And as I have pointed out on this show so many times, in my view, a mystery is a mind hook waiting to snag your brain, your mind. And mysteries have a funny way of never working themselves out, just putting you in a spin cycle till the end of time. That's what makes a mystery a mystery. As a matter of fact, whenever I see a mystery in the real world, I walk the other way because I'm not interested in enveloping myself in an endless cycle. Jason?
Crypto-terrestrials means that they be a separate species, different from human, but still from this world. And a lot of people do talk about this, but I've never seen any evidence to substantiate it all. It's just another theory to kind of go along with all the other theories. So the notion that there's a higher on the evolutionary scale species than humanity is that's working behind the scenes to manipulate us, well, I mean, it's just as good of a theory as anything else, but there's actually no evidence that I've ever seen of that being the reality.
You know, we've seen so many things that are nonsensical with regard to the idea of aliens and UFOs that Jason and I have just ripped to shreds in the same way we ripped dinosaurs to shreds. And my problem is this, you know, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. We need something foundationally firm that we can stand on to talk about these things, and I just don't think that exists.
All right, number 26 is from Rebecca. My question, which I would like you to consider, is this. when you look at how great the deception is, you have to wonder if regular humans are behind it. For some time now, I've been looking into the question of the Gnostics' idea of the Demiurge and the Archons. I can't see a better explanation for what the hell is going on here. I would be very interested in your take on this.
Well, again, we're faced with a situation where if we go at this reasonably and we really study it and we use the best logic we can do, chances are we're not going to get a lot further or a lot closer to an answer. So what that leaves us with is to make some call based on common sense. And my one rule of thumb in this world is if I can't make head nor tails out of a thing, I don't accept it. And if that changes where something comes available to me where I can make heads nor tails, I may choose to accept it or partially accept it or take it on standby till I can better confirm it. And I think that's what we're talking about in your question here, Rebecca. Common sense dictates to me that, yeah, regular humans are behind this. They may be almost like a different species than us with the level of adeptship and intelligence that they have. Compared to the average person walking on the street, they may almost seem like an advanced species. But nonetheless, just people like you and me. That's where I'm coming from.
Now, I have no problem admitting that I have had quite a few spiritual experiences, and they have certainly left an impression on me. However, I have never had any spiritual experiences, and I've had quite a few, that have proven to me that one religion or even point of view has it completely correct. There's just something more to this reality than the physical reality. That's what it has proven to me. But I can't tell you what it is or which of these little stories that have come out over the years is actually the accurate one.
Well, she brings up Gnosticism here, so let me throw Hermeticism into it. There's an idea by the adepts in Hermeticism that there's a thing called the inverse magi, which in my view is a bit like just saying people who opt for the dark side, like black magicians. And I think we see this in the news. I think we see this in all the fake events where we're told all this violence happens, where it's all staged. So that too plays into this. But to go back to the sky, what if the sky tells us a lot more about this place than we're aware of? It would be a little bit like one side having a playbook and the rest of us not. And on top of that, they are the inverse magi, the kind of black magicians, the self-centered, the kind of no regard for the majority of us. I think maybe that's a little bit closer to what we see, but these are hard questions to answer. At the end of the day, you've got to use common sense, and if you can't make heads nor tails, set it aside.
And another question from Rebecca. Another idea. I've been looking into this for a while now, and recently it was brought to my attention again while watching a program series on ancient China about the Terracotta Wars. Apart from the amount of people they would need for making these statues, they also mentioned how the jade carving from that era is now not even possible with modern-day tools. So my question is, did something happen in regard to technology or whatever they once used, and has it been hidden from us?
Well, let's go back at this from a common sense point of view. Let's take something simple like, okay, the buildings we all live in and work in these days. For the most part, they're these synthetic rectangles and cubes with glass windows in them. They're not healthy. There's nothing healthy about them. They're not ingenious. We can claim architects build them all day long, but they're basically cookie cutter. We get very few buildings these days. Even when a real architect goes to town, what do we get? Steel and glass. Not that ingenious, not that kind of awe-inspiring. And yet we can go through Europe to this day and look at cathedrals that were built with glass and stone, where they are awe-inspiring, where you wonder, are there people in existence right now who could still do the same kind of thing? I think maybe that's the allegory we can use here. Certainly, I will never be convinced. A couple of the things that they try to convince us about people who came before us is, first of all, cowboys only lived to be 30 or 40 years old. Yeah, nonsense. This is more of that this death-based system mind screw trying to make us feel like living to 70 or 80 is good, which I don't accept either. But let's take it even back further. We can look at some pretty impressive things that have been built in this world. We can look at stones that apparently were moved that seem like they should be unmovable. I don't think there's ever been an age or a group of humans that didn't have some pretty crazy abilities. And then to pull it back to the sky, for a long time, I've been trying to place the age using the old Hindu ideas that we would be in. Here's the rub. If we follow astrology, we're going to be told it's the age of Aries. because that's when all the definitions put around astrology were put in place, so that's what we use. If we look at the sky right now, we're actually in the age of Pisces, or exiting the age of Pisces. If we look at other accounts from adepts, they'll tell us that in the year 1881, we went into the age of Aquarius. In each of these ages, there are supposed to be potentialities by the people who measured cycles of time. And I believe this in the same way I believe when I get up in the morning, depending on where I am in the cycle of a day, different things are possible. In the same way as if I'm on a rainy day, I might not be able to accomplish the same things on a sunny day. And that's kind of a simplified argument, but you get what I'm getting at if you understand something of the cycle of time. Having said that, the idea of being in the age of Aries corresponds with the head, or the higher human being. At the time we fell to the age of Pisces, the idea would be that we're falling all the way back down to the feet. If we were truly in the age of Aquarius, we would be coming back up that arc again, headed towards the head. And I just mention all these things because there are people out there who have measured vast, vast cycles of time, but I don't know how far I wandered there, Jason.
Number 28, from Robert. I would love to hear your thoughts on the evolutionary path of Homo sapiens sapien from supposed apes and the contradiction of chromosomes, i.e. 48 to 46, respectively. I draw this topic idea from Lloyd Pye's seminar, Everything You Know Is Wrong. It's a hypothesis that my mind keeps coming back to, and I haven't been able to reconcile any of it all these years later.
Well, I think Lloyd Pye chose exactly the right title. Everything You Know Is Wrong, mostly. But here's my thing. I don't accept that humans evolved from anything. I don't accept that evolution is a true thing. I can poke holes in it all day. I can use the simple childhood, cliche, what came first, the chicken or the egg, to prove to you that evolution does not work. If you logically look at what came first, the chicken or the egg. Having said that, the idea of chromosomes just shows different kinds of life. I don't know how we got here. I don't think anyone does. Or if people do, they're holding it awful close to the vest. But I can tell you certainly evolution doesn't play into it. And we sure as hell didn't come from some slime in the water. And again, the chicken or the egg allegory proves that evolution is nonsensical. Jason?
Well, I think Lloyd Pye's work demonstrates that evolution as presented in the mainstream definitely is not accurate. But I think his work also brings up other questions. We don't have the real answer, and that's just the truth of it. And I think people like Lloyd Pye need to keep doing this kind of work to figure out how things actually truly interrelate, because what we're handed from a mainstream point of view is nonsense.
Well, I'll add this. From our point of view, being a human being is the apex of living things in this world. We are it. We are the top. So I think the main question becomes, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to use the highest aspects that we can attribute to being a human being, like virtue and honesty and, caring for everything here, or will we be something else? I think these are the things that really become more important, because I don't see any good way to know what's been hidden from us just by logic alone.
29 is from Liberty for Me, concerning numerology gematria. Clearly there's a there. It's difficult to fathom that there's an office building somewhere, perhaps in the Vatican, and all these events are being preordained down to the last college football game. Considering this, what portion of this phenomenon would you consider to be organic? In other words, are we living in a mathematical system which has been corrupted by the controllers for their benefit? And if so, can we use the system for good to our benefit? Thank you for your time and consideration. I've been struggling with the sheer enormity of occurrences documented by Zach Hubbard and Derek that clearly carry weight and line up to a staggering degree of accuracy.
Right. This whole question and idea that you're putting forward here always plays into the idea of people finally just saying, you know what, it's all fake, to hell with it, which I think is a shame to go down that road. A lot of it is clearly being manipulated, and I've gone down the same road. So what? I wake up in the morning and I open out my email client, and a couple alerts come up and say, okay, you've got a meeting today, you've got to record to Jason. That's what I get. But somewhere in this world, this other guy's got this crazy ass computer, and when he opens up in the morning, it goes, you got to maintain the moon lie this morning. The JFK lie needs some work. These kinds of things. Yeah, it becomes staggering. For my money, it's another thing. I don't think we're going to work these things out logically, but to recognize that they're going on is enough. That's the closest I can come there. Jason?
I would suggest that things that would make the controllers money and keep the control system going are certainly manipulated behind the scenes, and for some reason, it all seems to line up, at least a lot of it seems to line up with the whole numerology thing. Do I think they pan out every single detail? I doubt it.
Well, there's another thing about numerology and gematria. So they're basically crypto keys in a way, if you want to look at it that way. The problem with any encoded thing is unless you've been handed the key, the best you can do is recognize patterns. If they are using some old method, like basic numerology, then you can get to some answers kind of along the way. But I would point out that almost every time an encoded method is used and people are coming close to breaking it, they simply change the key and they change the meaning of what's being witnessed. And then again, all you're left with is patterns. But there's that too. Anyhow, Jason, we're about 20 minutes over the top of the hour here. What do you say we call it? We'll take a break and we'll come back for the second hour and we'll pick up on number 30.
Sounds good to me.
All right, man. That brings the first hour of Crow 777 Radio Podcast, episode 93, covering subscriber questions and topics. We'll be back in the second half. We have everything. All right, man. Welcome to the introduction for Crow 777 Radio Podcast, episode 95. Jason Lindgren is with me. We've gone a little away from the beaten path for the first hour here. By the way, in the second hour, we're going to finish up with all the remaining questions that were submitted by subscribers. That is always some of the most interesting stuff we cover. So much stuff about sun, moon, medical marijuana. I mean, you name it. They brought up topics that we discuss in the second hour. Very interesting. But in the first hour, we had so many people come and wanted us to talk about the supposed launching of a sports car into space that we decided we'd give it a go. On top of that, there's a new meme out that is stating that jet engines do not and cannot hold the amount of jet fuel you're being told. We kind of briefly addressed that at the end. Jason and I have made a conscious decision to move away from making flat-out statements, this is fake or that's fake, and try to just have a level conversation that points out problems that we see in any given narrative that we take on. Part of the reason is that anyone who chooses to censor a conversation like that is clearly in the wrong. We're just having an adult conversation. That's part of the reason. But we've come to understand that we see so many channels where people are what we consider often to be making clearly correct assumptions that the thing is not true. But in the way it is delivered, maybe it's not as helpful as it could be. In other words, if you can get a person to look at details and think about it, and of their own volition come up with the idea or the change of mind that, hey man, something here isn't right, then in my view, or in our view in this case, you've really helped an individual more than just making blanket statements that this is fake, or this is false, or this is untrue. After all, a person has to get to a point where they can assess details of what they're being shown and make a call, hopefully correctly, of whether a thing is worth accepting or not. With that in mind, for this one episode, we're going to acquiesce to requests and take on the idea that a sports car was launched into space, and also the recent idea that's come to light, I don't actually know how old the idea is that it's not even possible for a full-size jet airplane to hold the quantities of fuels we're being told they hold. We'll go at these. Again, it is a very kind of basic adult conversation, the kind of conversation that should never be censored, because on the face of it, it is just that.
Anyhow, let's jump in with Jason. And again, the second hour is very, very interesting. So there it is, man. Cheers.
All right, man. Welcome to Crow Triple Podcast. This is episode 95. Jason Lindgren's with me. We're going to talk about a few things here. And bear in mind, we still have a number of subscriber submitted questions, which we will address probably mostly in the second hour. Depends where we get in the first hour here. We're going to look at the SpaceX launch, where they're now launching sports cars into space, of all things. And we're also going to look at a meme that got pretty popular over the last couple of weeks about the idea that jets don't need jet fuel to fly. Interesting idea. But anyhow, welcome, Jason.
Good morning from finally warming up Baton Rouge.
Yeah, we're getting pretty mild here, too. As a matter of fact, I think we're 50s, maybe even a couple 60s days coming up. But you know how it is here, man. We could pass the equinox and still get snow. Anyhow, a couple things to mention. I will be doing a reoccurring spot on Truth Frequency Radio with Billy Ray Valentine, probably only 2 or 3 times a month, maybe twice a month, almost always Sunday nights. I think it is always Sunday nights, and I do the initial intro with him just to catch people up where I'm at. Also, I need to give, once again, a shout out to a YouTube channel to promote the work that they're doing. The YouTube channel is Rob, R-O-B, second name or second word, S-E-S-S, Rob S channel. This is a living man standing up for the rights of living men and women. Go over, subscribe, show the man that you appreciate what he's doing. It takes guts to do what he's doing, and he ain't backing down. Anyhow, Jason, do you have anything?
Well, the interesting thing about Rob S. is, from what I've seen, not only is he standing up for what's right, he's having some success as well. He's implementing the fight back against the strawman identity.
Right. He's basically showing that corporations have gone rampant here. Local police stations and other things have what's it called, a DUNS number? Do I have that right? I hope I have it right, which proves that they are a corporation, which means they're shareholders and everything else. But that's not really what this is wholly about. It's basically about the rights of human beings. And apparently there is a huge taking away of children going on in his part of the world by, I'm not even sure what they call the service there. Here it would be something like social workers in the United States, but he's standing up against it, and he's got every leg to stand on. So everyone who cares about the rights of living human beings should go over there and sub them and let them know you're watching. Not only that, recently kangaroo courts took down videos from YouTube, and there was no reason for it. And not only that, well, I'll set all that aside. So, you know, it's great to have people sub him and get ready to mirror the work that he's doing, because you never know where this goes in the age of censorship, where they basically just censor anything. I mean, look at me. I was accused of hate speech. I don't engage in hate speech and bullying. Nonsense. I don't do those things in my life, and those were the reasons used to take me out. But anyhow, do you have anything else, Jason?
Nope, let's rock and roll.
All right, man. I couldn't state that better. Let's rock and roll. Let's take a ride on heavy metal. Let's jump in. I mean, come on. Sports cars in space. It's all you.
On Tuesday, February 6th, 2018,